everybody. This is Jamie with everythingairplanes.com. We're in Broadhead, Wisconsin today at the Kelch Museum, and I'm with Executive Director Pat Weeden. Good morning, Pat. How are you doing?
Morning. I'm doing all right. How are you?
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to come down and see the museum firsthand. It's awesome. I was really, it was just coming in the door and just going, wow.
It punches you in the nose, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it's pretty cool. After seeing these airplanes all over the field down here, and now they're all in one place, I'm really excited about the museum and that you guys are getting a really good start on it. So tell our viewers a little bit about the museum, about the collection, about Mr. Kelch, and we'll go into some of the other, how they can help before we get done.
Yeah, sure. So the full name of the place is actually the Alfred and Lois Kelch Aviation Museum. So Al and Lois Kelch were some early pioneers in the vintage airplane movement. They were instrumental in starting the vintage, what started out as an antique classic division at EAA back in the 70s, and it's now called the vintage division. So they were instrumental in starting that up. They were instrumental in creating the judging rules that are used for air shows now, especially at Oshkosh. Al was a businessman in the Milwaukee area, started his own company in the 50s. Kelch Manufacturing was very successful. Literally a self-made man, came from a small Iowa farm town and made his own life and did very well for himself, so he was able to collect, which at the time were just kind of used airplanes. They weren't really even antiques yet, but he sort of focused on the one-offs and the rarities and the ones that were hard to find. And starting in the late 60s, early 70s, he started building and restoring his own collection, which he called his museum. He had a private strip over in Mequon, Wisconsin, just west of Milwaukee.
Right.
And in the 90s, he moved, he sold the farm and moved all of his collection to the Broadhead Airport here. Now, for those who don't know the Broadhead Airport, the real quick story is we're actually next year will be our 75th anniversary of the airport. It started in 1946. But starting in the late 70s, we started having, and I say we because I was a little airport rat at the time running around here. We started having several fly-ins a year that focused on antique and vintage aircraft. So it's become a home for those types of airplanes and that type of knowledge and mechanics, and people who flock to those things are all kind of, a lot of them are based here. So Al wanted to be a part of that. He built 2 hangars, and we're up to 4 hangars now on the airport. And he moved his airplanes here and just called it his museum. It was very, very informal. Back in the mid-90s, Al and Lois started a foundation. It's the Alfred and Lois Kelch Charitable Trust is what it's called. And they were getting up there. They were in their 80s at the time, so part of this trust was to what they called it is keep the doors open.
Right.
Keep the museum open until the money runs out. And they picked a couple of trustees, and that was about as informal as it was. So Al passed away in 2004 and Lois in 2009. So the trust was still in place, and the trustees did just that. They kept the museum open when there were people here, but that was part of the problem. It was only open when we had a fly-in here, which was 3 or 4 times a year.
Right.
Or you had to know about it and know where it was and know who to call. So the trustees came together in 2012, and they said, look, let's either do this right, go in full board, start a real museum, or let's just sell everything and give the money away and go home. Well, fortunately, they decided to go all in.
Right.
So they split the trust up into 2 groups. They formed a separate nonprofit museum, Alfred Lois Kelch Aviation Museum. They got our nonprofit status in 2014, and I was hired later that year to kind of coordinate and make a museum. So and we started really with just 4 pole buildings.
Right.
You know, no bathrooms, nothing's heated or air conditioned. I joked that it was only a museum because we said it was.
Right.
Some beautiful, neat old airplanes, but we just weren't set up to have visitors. So to make it quick, we bought this 2-acre parcel that's immediately adjacent to the Broadhead Airport. We got a permanent access agreement to the airport, and we started a fundraiser in 2016 to build this new museum complex. So this building that we're sitting in is phase 1.
Okay.
It's a 12,000 square foot airplane hangar, all steel construction. beautiful building, big airport-facing windows and a 60-foot hangar door, which is, we sized it 60 feet thinking it would handle anything that ever lands at Broadhead Airport on our grass runways. But then someone corrected me and said we've had a DC-3 in here. So I don't think that'd fit through our 60-foot door. But anyways, this building was completed late last year, late 2019, and we're still in the process of kind of outfitting it. We're doing the interior, we're building displays. We just went through a whole rebranding effort, so we're starting to do our signage, all the marketing things like that. And so that's kind of the spot we're in. We're still fundraising for phase 2.
Okay.
Now this whole project is about $1.4 million. This building here was about $650,000, and phase 2, which is where what I call the actual museum, you know, the display cases and the artwork and the library and the nice pretty part, and then a rentable event space and a climate controlled archive. All of that will be in phase 2, and we're still fundraising for that. We're about halfway done. We were hoping to break ground late this summer. I'm still keeping my fingers crossed, and I'm hopeful we can break ground on phase 2 this year. And then when that's open, then we can open our doors to the public, and we're open for business, as they say.
Right. Well, I grew up in Pewaukee, about 75 miles from here, and I've been in aviation for all my life. And it wasn't until a few years ago that I knew about what you guys are doing down here. So how can we make sure that the people that are seeing this get to know about where Broadhead is, where this wonderful collection is, and how they can help you guys to meet your goals with fundraising, and at some point make a trip to come up and see these beautiful airplanes, because there's one-ofs, there's some really unique airplanes. It's a beautiful display.
Yeah, and I've been into old airplanes my whole life, and there's airplanes in here I'd never heard of until I started working here, which is a little embarrassing. As far as getting to know about us, that's the one thing we've been concentrating on since we incorporated here about 5 years ago. We're in the slow process of getting all the aircraft back to flight status. We now have flown 3 of them, soon to be 4, hopefully here in the next couple of weeks. And we've taken, like our steerman behind us, we took to Oshkosh here a couple of years ago. Our Curtis has been up there a couple times. We try to hit some of the local pancake breakfasts when we can. We try to have our own events here that we advertise on our Facebook and Instagram pages. Just look for Kelch Aviation Museum, you'll find it. Our website is kelchmuseum.org. We're going to launch our new site. It's in actually it's done with development. We're proofreading it now. It should be launched here in the next couple of weeks. And that'll have tons of information on events. But primarily social media, our website. If you go on our website, you can join our email list. And also, we still put out an old-fashioned paper newsletter. Okay. Believe it or not. Even in this digital day and age, I found it to be a very effective way to get the word out and stay in communication with donors and fans and just people who like old airplanes and frankly just like what we're doing in the community. Right. And that's one thing I like to emphasize, especially in the community here. Broadhead's a small town. It's a small farming town in southern Wisconsin. If people have never been here, this is kind of a big deal in the town. There's no big rentable event space in town right now. Right. So it's going to be a community asset, and I'm trying to tell people that it's more than about a room full of old airplanes. That's kind of a draw to get a lot of people here. But in town, the other half might be a draw to get people here, and then they can learn about old airplanes. And we plan to have regular classes for all ages. Maybe some STEM-based programming for high school kids. Some real basic aviation stuff for little kids. An old movie night for us older kids, and we want to have this be a regular place that people want to be at, people want to go to, regardless of whether they like old airplanes or not. Right. So in the last year the excitement has been really tremendous. At our groundbreaking last year for this hangar, last July 19th, I believe it was, I was planning on about 40 people showing up, and we had about 240. Wow. And a lot of people from town. It was just really, really heartwarming to see the support we had. Right.
Well, I know I've been down for the last 3 or 4 years for the grassroots flying, and it's amazing. I mean, you come here and you step on the grounds and it's going back in time. I've been all over the planet watching airplanes, and there's no place like Broadhead to go back in time and see the old airplanes. And you walk up to anybody that's an owner, and they're more than happy to speak with you. They want to talk to you about their airplanes. They're glad that you're there. It's just a wonderful opportunity. And I know you don't want it to become Oshkosh, but at the same time, if you're an old airplane person, this is the place to be.
It's a place to be, and it's amazing if you look out at this airport now. And it's a grass strip. We have 3 grass runways. Our longest is the FAA says it's 2,700 feet. It's about 3,000 usable, so it's not a big airport. But last September we had almost 200 airplanes here.
Right. Right.
You know, we were running out of places to park airplanes on the 88 acres here. And you stand here and you look, and you say, where did all these people come from? And isn't this the coolest thing in the world?
Right. Yeah.
But Broadhead is a different vibe.
Is there anything else that we can that you can end with? Give people your website address again, and how they can contact you, how they can contribute to the fund to help this out.
Yeah, kelchmuseum.org, and it's KELCH museum.org. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We actually have a pretty good following. And I don't know about you, Jamie, but guys my age, I get a little weird about social media. But our Facebook page is just unbelievably active.
Yeah.
We'll make a post there, and sometimes we'll have 10,000 views in the next couple hours, and I just can't believe the amount of excitement that it generates. So those are probably the best places to get kind of day-to-day updates. And stay tuned. We're still in the middle of our capital campaign to build Phase 2. We can't open to the public till Phase 2 is built. We're still looking at about $300,000 we need to raise. We're still in a good position, but we need everyone's help.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. And everything airplanes is here to cover everything that flies, from RC airplanes to the space shuttle. So I'm trying to make it happen. Hopefully these interviews are what people want to see, and I think it is, because it's interesting. A lot of people, like I said, I grew up an hour and a half from here, and I didn't know about this place until about 4 years ago. So trying to get the word out, trying to get a lot of interest sparked in keeping these wonderful old airplanes alive, and supporting the museum and the efforts that you guys are having to educate people on what you guys want to get out of this place.
And we need people like you to help us get the word out.
All right.
We don't want anyone else to say, hey, I never knew you were here.
Right. Sounds good. I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity, Pat, and I look forward to sharing this video with you guys, and we'll see what kind of help we can get for you.
Thanks a lot, Jamie.
All right, take care. Thanks.